Last weekend at the Chinese Grand Prix, we saw exactly how cruel F1 can be, with Ferrari getting a double disqualification for infringements to their car, meaning 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton technically did not finish the race. And to most people, this is where the story ends. However, for Ferrari, this isn't where it stops, as what many people do not know is later on the Sunday, to try to fix the issue, Ferrari created a time machine in order to go back in time and fix the cars ahead of the race. However, whilst going back in time, there was a crack in the universe which sucked everyone into it, creating a new parallel universe, which was completely the same as the old universe, bar the fact that Lewis Hamilton's disqualification had him disqualified from all of his 358 race starts. So that brings me to today's question. What would happen to the world of F1 if Lewis Hamilton never existed? We begin our journey all the way back in 2007, where we now have Fernando Alonso flying solo in that chrome Ferrari. And as we know, Kimi Raikkonen normally would go on to win this championship season by 1 point on 110 to Lewis Hamilton on 109 and Fernando Alonso on identical points on 109 as well. But with Hamilton no longer in this season, how does the championship change? Now, before we get into this first season and the first few seasons, the point system was slightly different. So you got 10 points for first place and 1 point for 8th place. That is why you're going to see the championship points a lot lower. And for future reference, when we get onto the seasons where fastest lap is introduced, if the driver had fastest lap, they keep it and take the extra points. And or if Lewis Hamilton had the fastest lap and they take the position from Lewis Hamilton, they get the fastest lap as well. Just to clear things up, as you have to have some sort of rule in this scenario. Now, with all of these changes, it's safe to say it really came down to Raikkonen versus Alonso. So how does the season change? Well, Kimi Raikkonen is able to pick up a staggering extra 13 points to his tally, now ending this season on 123 points. So, can the handsome Spaniard catch up to Kimi Raikkonen? Well, he only picks up 1 point in Bahrain, 2 in Spain, 1 in Canada, 2 in the US, 1 in France, and 1 in Hungary, meaning he ends on a tally with 118 points to his name. So actually, without Lewis Hamilton, the championship actually gets quite a lot easier for Kimi Raikkonen. He no longer needed that famous win in Brazil. On to 2008. This is the first championship season which, of course, Lewis Hamilton had won. So no matter what happens in this season, we're going to get a new champion. So who will it be? And well, I can tell you straight off the bat, it's not one of the more interesting seasons of this scenario. With Massa already 22 points ahead of his closest rival of Kimi Raikkonen this season, so it would take a lot for someone like Raikkonen or Kubica behind Raikkonen to catch up. Well, Felipe Massa, throughout the 2008 season without Hamilton, can now gain an extra 6 points, meaning his tally goes up to 103. Not a lot of points gained, however, 100 plus should be enough for the championship. And if we go to look at Kimi Raikkonen's points, Kimi can only manage 9, going up to 84. And more importantly, not for the championship, but Robert Kubica in 3rd place now gains an extra 11 points, now ending on 86, moving up to 2nd in the driver's standings. So still not a title to Kubica's name, but a very good and respectable 2nd place in 2008. Meaning that in this parallel universe, Felipe Massa is now a Formula 1 driver's champion. Now on to the final season of the Noughties, 2009, and again, it's a bit of a snooze fest when we come into these later seasons of the Noughties, and that is because Jenson Button won the season by quite a big margin to Sebastian Vettel, but that wasn't even the biggest point. It's because the McLaren was basically nowhere until the second half of the season, meaning Hamilton wasn't really giving you any points by being out of this season because he wasn't really there for half the season. But in Jenson Button's case, he would gain 1 point in Hungary, 1 in Europe, 1 in Singapore, 1 in Japan, and 1 in Brazil. Like I mentioned, all at basically the second half of the season, ending his championship season on 100 points. Like I thought, no one can catch up to this. Sebastian Vettel can only manage extra points with 1 in Singapore, 1 in Brazil. that is it. So he goes up to 86 points. And Barrichello, the other closest rival, only gains an extra 3 points. Like I mentioned, Hamilton was just nowhere this season, meaning the top 3 does not change and Jenson Button keeps his championship. So as expected, the end of the noughties stays exactly the same. Now, 2010, this is another season that wasn't won by Lewis Hamilton. However, he was in the title fight, which means he definitely had a role to play in who got what points and where. And that is why this one is going to get interesting, because not only this, but bar Lewis Hamilton, there was 3 drivers who were in a very close battle for the championship. Of course, you have Sebastian Vettel, who would go on to win the championship, but also you had Fernando Alonso closely followed behind with Mark Webber in 3rd place. Oh, and by the way, this is the first season we used the new modern point system that we're very much used to in F1 of 25 points for 1st place and 1 point for 10th. So you're going to see a lot more disparity on how many points you can pick up now. So we'll start off with the main contender for this title, which is the main man himself, Sebastian Vettel, the one who won the championship. And he picks up points with 3 in Bahrain, 2 in China, 3 in Canada, and 2 in the UK. So he can only manage an extra 10 points to his tally, which isn't a lot. And it does make me a little bit worried for him, because that means he ends on 266 points now. Now moving on to his next closest rival, Fernando Alonso, and he gains points in China with 3 points, 2 in Monaco, 2 in Turkey, 3 in Canada, 2 in Europe, and 2 in Abu Dhabi, ending with an extra 14 points. And if you can do the maths right, you can now see Vettel and Alonso are equal on 266 points for the championship. So that means that would come down to who won the most wins. And it gets even crazier, because listen to this. Fernando Alonso, 5 wins. Sebastian Vettel, 5 wins. Incredible. You can't even separate them with wins, which means you would have to go down to who got the most second places. And Alonso originally gets 2 second places, now 3 with Lewis Hamilton out of the way, and Vettel, he can only manage 2. So Sebastian Vettel would lose the championship in this scenario to Fernando Alonso on who has the most second positions in a race. Absolutely insane. This has to be the most crazy year I've ever seen in a scenario video this far. I just can't believe it. That is actually incredible. But we need to also remember about Mark Webber, who could definitely spoil the Ferrari party, as he gains 2 points in Bahrain, 2 in Australia, 2 in China, 3 in Turkey, 2 in Canada, 2 in Germany, 7 in Spa, and 2 in Abu Dhabi. Meaning he gains 22 points, which means he's just behind the other 2 on 264. So if you thought it was close enough without Lewis Hamilton in contention, without Hamilton, the championship is decided by 2 points on the modern 25 point system, incredible, by 3 drivers. That's even closer than the Verstappen-Hamilton fight. That's crazy. It now means Alonso is your 3-time world champion. 2011, and now you can breathe a little bit, as this was one of the more dominant seasons of Sebastian Vettel's career. And more importantly, Lewis Hamilton again didn't really play much of a part in this season. And so, without even the calculations, we can figure out that Sebastian Vettel will still win the championship, as he won by 122 points. Yeah, we know it's still going to be Vettel. 2012, another season of close fighting, with Vettel winning the championship by 3 points to Fernando Alonso. Again, Lewis Hamilton did not have much of a big part to play in a season like this. However, with the championship so close, even just 1 position change from Alonso up to a 2nd place could tie the championship. So what happens? Well, fun fact, before I go into both of them, this would actually mean Sergio Perez wins his first Formula 1 Grand Prix almost a decade earlier than he actually does, in Monza in 2012. But back over to the championship contenders, Vettel would gain an extra 13 points throughout the season, ending on 294, to Alonso, who's so close but so far, would now end the season 2 points off, as he gains 14 points in this season with 292. But I think this championship loss is going to hurt a lot less for Fernando Alonso now that he won the 2012 championship. And then finally, to end this era of F1, we have 2013. And again, it is another dominant season by a driver called Sebastian Vettel, meaning without the calculations, we know exactly who's winning this championship. It is Vettel. And again, not really a season Hamilton was ever in contention for, as it was his first season in Mercedes and they were putting all their efforts into 2014. And I wonder if that would pan out right. And my God, we are back into the Hamilton title range. This means Hamilton has won a championship this season, as we all know, in 2014. So again, a new champion would be decided for the 2014 season. And realistically, I'm not going to waste your time for a lot of these mid-2010 seasons. We can speed run through these quite quickly. In 2014, Rosberg would now dominate the season, meaning he takes technically his second title, as we're about to get to that. 2015, again, very much a case of Rosberg the closest driver behind, but this time round Vettel is actually a little bit closer. So can he catch up a little bit, as the gap normally was 44 points from Rosberg in second to Vettel in third? However, it actually becomes even bigger as Rosberg now takes the title, gaining an extra 57 points in this season, ending on 379. So yeah, Vettel ain't getting close, as he only managed to get an extra 45 points, so the gap actually increases. And then, like I mentioned, in 2016, this is Nico Rosberg's title. And as we know, it was very much a two-horse race between Rosberg and Hamilton. So Rosberg easily takes the 2016 title, becoming a three-time world champion. Now into the Bottas era for Mercedes. And this one gets interesting, because as we know, Sebastian Vettel wasn't far off for the 2017 season to Valtteri Bottas. And when I say he wasn't far off, I mean he was actually ahead. 12 points separated both of them, with Vettel in second place on 317 to Bottas in third with 305. So who will take that fresh crown ready to be picked up, left behind by Lewis Hamilton? Well, Vettel gains 7 points in China, 7 in Spain, 3 in Canada, 2 in the UK, 7 in Spa, 3 in Italy, 3 in Malaysia, 7 in the US, and 3 in Abu Dhabi, gaining an extra 42 points to his tally, ending on 359. But then, can Bottas catch up, as he gains 3 points in Australia, 2 in China, 3 in Bahrain, 7 in Canada, 7 in the UK, 2 in Spa, 7 in Italy, 3 in Singapore, 2 in Malaysia, 3 in Japan, and 2 in the US, ending with an extra 41 points. So sadly for Valtteri Bottas, he does not take the 2017 championship, but good for Sebastian Vettel. He now regains that championship he lost in 2010, going back up to being a 4-time world champion. And so far in the scenario, that means Ferrari have actually gained a title with Felipe Massa, a title with Fernando Alonso, and now a title with Vettel. All of the drivers who could not do it for them in the other universe. Now, in 2018, we have a similar situation where Hamilton would go again to dominate the season after the halfway point. However, this time round, even though Hamilton was able to dominate with 88 points difference between him and Vettel, Vettel had another dominant season in that Ferrari technically compared to anyone else, as he beat his teammate Kimi Räikkönen by 69 points. So again, we can do another no calculation season to know for a fact that Vettel is definitely winning that championship, meaning Vettel is now a 5-time world champion after losing out in 2010. So Ferrari fans, you've got to be loving this so far. And then in 2019, can we finally get a Valtteri Bottas championship? He's been so close to it in 2017. And this time, Bottas starts on 326 points to Verstappen's 278. That because the gap is big enough, meaning that Valtteri Bottas, with the gained points, ends up taking the 2019 championship. There is a big enough gap for us to know he would 100% take that title to Verstappen. Incredible. However, Verstappen now in second place is very much a clear sign of things to come. But for Valtteri Bottas, he is not going to care, as he is now a Formula 1 Drivers' Champion. But with 2019 not living up to that Bottas versus Verstappen hype, now the 2020 season definitely is, with Bottas normally ending on 223 points in second place to Verstappen on 214 in third. Very much game on for who takes the crown. So we'll start off with the underdog for this season, with Verstappen, who gains an extra 47 points this season, meaning he now ends on 261, which is a very healthy sum of points. Can Bottas catch up to that? Well, I can tell you for every single Bottas fan that he can. He gains an extra 50 points throughout the season in 2020, meaning he ends on 274 points, taking home his second championship with Mercedes. Wow. Valtteri Bottas, a double world champion. And I promise you, I've not been paid off by Bottas to make this video. What an achievement it would be if Lewis Hamilton never existed. But now, very much like the mid 2010s, I can speed run through the next few seasons, as we all know a very familiar name who starts running the show in F1. And with Hamilton sort of being out of the picture for a lot of these seasons, I say out of the picture, but 2023 he had an amazing season, but it wouldn't have changed anything. We'll get onto it. Now in 2021, Verstappen keeps his championship with ease, as the gap before adding those extra points was 169.5, and realistically I think the gap could actually get bigger. So safe to say he does keep that 2021 title. Then in 2022, Verstappen again dominates the season, with Charles Leclerc being his closest contender, with a gap of 146. Yeah, again, I think we know who wins. And then in 2023, I wonder who could have won. It definitely wasn't the most dominant season, potentially, of F1 we have ever seen. So yeah, even with Hamilton out of the way, Verstappen takes all of these titles, no questions asked. But luckily for us, the final season of the video does get to be a juicier one, as in 2024, the gap to Verstappen from Norris was only 63 points. And yes, again, it wasn't one of Hamilton's most amazing seasons. However, he did play a role. Can anything change? Can Norris get close enough to Verstappen to make it his first championship season? Well, Norris, he gains a whopping 3 points in the UK, 2 in Baku, 2 in Spa, 2 in Vegas, and yeah, that's it. That is literally all of the points he gains. He only manages, without Lewis Hamilton in this season, to gain 9 points. Yeah, even if we didn't add Verstappen's extra points, he would be leading the championship still by 54. Wow. And to pour more salt into the wound for Lando Norris, Verstappen would actually gain 22 points throughout this season, meaning that the gap wouldn't be 54, it would actually be 76. So actually, it's quite embarrassing once we get rid of Hamilton for Lando Norris, as this was technically his first championship fight season. But that is all she wrote for if Lewis Hamilton never existed, never joined F1, got disqualified because of Ferrari's time travel, all of that good stuff. So, in summary, 2008, Felipe Massa wins the championship. 2010, Alonso wins on second places to Sebastian Vettel, now becoming a 3-time champion. Nico Rosberg picks up the 2014 and 2015 title, becoming another 3-time world champion in this video. However, Vettel, who did lose a championship earlier on, now wins the 2017 and 2018 season, becoming a 5-time world champion in F1. Then in 2019 and 2020, Valtteri Bottas takes those titles, becoming a double world champion. So all in all, what do you all think? Were all of these changes worth Lewis Hamilton not being in the sport? I feel like a few Ferrari fans would agree, especially on the Fernando Alonso 2010 one. Or do you think Lewis Hamilton is too much of a legend, 7-time world champion, to ever even think about not being in F1? Comment down below. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. It's really fun making these videos, and I'll see you all later. Take care.